Howdy everyone, it's Sam. I hope you're doing really well. If you are new around these parts, I hope I can get you to consider liking the content, sharing and subscribing even to the channel. And if you are a regular around these here parts, thank you so much for the continuous support. Whilst the NRL season only came to its conclusion a couple of days ago, I don't want to stop doing NRL content. Rugby league is my passion, it's my sport, it's my hobby, and I want to continue talking about it throughout the off season to the best of my abilities. And what better way to do that than to talk about some of the best games that have gone down in season 2021. And this list is subjective. You can disagree, you can agree, leave your thoughts, leave your ideas, leave your favorite games or least favorite games even in the comments section below. But for me, these are my most enjoyable matches for season 2021. So let's make this official, let's get it on. These are the 21 best NRL games of season 2021. And we start with 21.
Number 21. Round 15, Titans versus Sea Eagles from Seabus Super Stadium. These two clubs met earlier this year when the Titans travelled down to Mudgee to take on Manly. Manly ended up shutting out the Gold Coast 36 points to nil in Tom Trbojević's triumphant return match. This game, round 15, the Titans held a 24 points to 8 lead at halftime. The Manly Seagulls, to their credit, hit back after the Titans got the first try in the first half. And then the second half came along and absolute sheer insanity occurred. The Seagulls scored 48 unanswered points and cut the Titans' defence to ribbons. Whilst this match finished 56 points to 24, and there is one other game on this list that has a 13 plus points scoreline difference, this game is so easy to watch. Just kick your feet back up and watch all the entertainment that these two clubs provided. Well, more so on the Manly side. It nearly missed out, but I just couldn't leave it out just for how crazy this game ended up being. This is number 21. Number 20, round 24, Dragons versus Cowboys from Brown Park, Rockhampton. Forget the fact that this game also took place on my birthday. At the time, these two sides were arguably the two most out-of-form clubs in the NRL competition. The Cowboys were on a 10-game losing streak, the Dragons a 6-game losing streak. But the contest that these two provided on a Saturday afternoon up there at Rockhampton was, in my opinion, anything but average. Cowboys scored the first try, scored another try in the first half, but ultimately it was the Dragons that held a 20 points to 10 lead at halftime. The Cowboys came bursting out of the barriers in the second half, scoring 4 tries in the first 15 minutes. Dragons hit back, making the scoreline only 32 points to 26 for a little while there, and it came down to the final play of the game, where an intercept was taken by Murray Tuolangi, and he passed the ball out to one of the most electric speedsters in the NRL today, in Hamiso Tabuai-Fidow, who ran away and scored the try, ensuring victory, the first victory for North Queensland in 10 or 11 weeks. Cowboys winning this game 38 points to 26. Number 19, round 6, Knights versus Sharks from McDonald Jones Stadium in Newcastle. Leading into this match, the Knights were on a 3-game losing streak and the Sharks were struggling for consistency. In the lead up to this encounter, it was confirmed that Kalen Ponga would play his first game of the 2021 NRL season for the Knights. And for the Cronulla Sharks, coach John Morris was unfairly sacked, in my opinion, by the Cronulla board. So there was a lot more pressure on the Sharks than there was Newcastle, even though they hadn't won in front of their home fans since round 1. The Cronulla Sharks, to their credit, ended up having the lead for a little while. But the story coming out of this clash was the cult figure, instant success story in the form, shape of Brodie Jones, who saved tries, cut men in half, and even scored a try of his own off the man Kalen Ponga. And just finally on Kalen Ponga, not only was he as crook as a dog, but in order to play, he needed a couple of injections throughout the contest. Unfortunately, the poor bugger had to have a chunder on the sideline as well throughout the contest. And it came down to the final few minutes this game. It ended up being 26 points to 22, where on the final play inside the 20-metre zone, Blake Green put up a wobbly old kick. Frizzell captured the ball off a bounce back and he offloaded it wildly back to Kalen Ponga. And Kalen Ponga goes under to score a try for the Newcastle Knights. This game wasn't intense. There were more fast-paced contests, but it did have a nice flow, and I really enjoyed myself whilst I was watching this encounter. And this, for me, deserves number 19 in 2021 Best Matches. Number 18, Round 11, Warriors versus Tigers from Central Coast Stadium. The week before was Magic Round, and so all eyes and ears were out for the referees and how their interpretations were going to go. And admittedly, it was a fairly fought contest, and there were a few sin bins in this game which we'll get to in due course. The first half was competitive, and the week before the Tigers defeated the Newcastle Knights convincingly. The Warriors went down to the Parramatta Eels gallantly. In the 56th minute, Ben Murdoch-Masila was rightfully sent to the sin bin for a professional foul, and in the space of that 10 minutes, the West Tigers elected to go for 2 penalty goals, and they were successfully converted. The controversy was obviously on the West Tigers for electing to kill time and not putting their foot on the gas to try and score a try whilst they were a man up. And then as soon as Ben Murdoch-Masila came back onto the paddock who had served his sin bin, Elise Katoa was sent to the sin bin for another 10 minutes. So effectively, for the last 20 minutes of this clash between the Warriors and the Tigers, the Warriors played a man down, and the Warriors ended up winning this clash off a great performance from young superstar Reece Walsh. He threw brilliant cutout passes, scored a slashing try of his own, and in the frantic final seconds of this clash, the Tigers were on the attack, but the Warriors ended up holding on to win a pretty good game of rugby league and deserving of this spot on my list. The only reason why it isn't higher and why I wish it sort of took place at Mount Smart is that Gosford, Friday night at 6 p.m, you could hear a bloody pin drop. Number 17, Round 8, Broncos versus Titans. In Round 2, these two sides met and the Titans won an unconvincing game of rugby league. And in this clash, it looked like they were about to hit their straps for season 2021 because they scored 4 tries in the first 15 minutes of this game. And everyone thought, oh no, the Broncos are about to be put to the sword. But to their absolute credit, the last half of the first half completely belonged to the Brisbane Broncos, and dramatically, the scoreline was 22 points all, and watching it live, you couldn't believe what was happening. And then the second half came about. In the first 12 minutes of that second half, the following occurred. The winger for the Gold Coast, Corey Thompson, was injured, so they were playing a man down and a man out of position. Corey Oates took an intercept, length of the field try, and Jermaine Azarko scored in the 52nd minute as well. It was effectively 34 unanswered points the Broncos had put onto the Gold Coast, where the Titans scored 22 points themselves. And effectively, in my opinion, the game was all over in the 62nd minute, where Jamal Fogarty took a goal line dropout, but his dropout went out on the full, and that allowed the Brisbane Broncos to take a penalty goal from right in front to extend that lead to 14 points. And yes, the Titans did score another try, but really the game was all over from there. And the match finished with a bit of a scuffle, so there might be a bit of pepper next time that these two sides meet in season 2022. It could have been higher if this second half was more tighter and if the defenses actually showed up. Watching it back, yes, it was dramatic live, but re-watching it, it's clearly a game that pits two average defenses against each other, and we all want to see a better game than that, don't we? So this is number 17 of my best matches for season 2021 in the NRL. Number 16, round 1, Broncos versus Eels, Suncorp Stadium. I had to think long and hard about this one because I know the Broncos are now back-to-back, but when I think about it, the defense was a little bit better, and it's a complete reversal as so far as what happened in both halves of football. So the Parramatta Eels kicked off, the Brisbane Broncos received the ball, and on the very first play of season 2021 for the Brisbane Broncos, they threw a forward pass, and they ended up finishing 14th on the ladder, a little bit better than what they did the season prior, but it still pretty much set the tone for their year. But to their credit, and Anthony Milford in particularly, they ended up taking a 16-0 lead at halftime, and Xavier Coates scored one of the more memorable tries of the year, where he slid on top of his head for about 3 or 4 meters, and then he was ruled out. He was taken in the back of an ambulance to a hospital where he was assessed, and I think he missed a week or 2 from it as well. Parramatta Eels came out of the blocks in the second half roaring, and they ended up taking an 18-16 lead with about 20 minutes to go. So they erased that 16-point deficit pretty quickly, in particularly when they went back-to-back. In the 63rd minute, Anthony Milford made a long-range break, and he passed the ball back on his inside to Brodie Croft, and on Brodie Croft's inside was Jake Turpin, and there was about 15 metres before the try line, and Brodie Croft either had to pass the ball to Jake Turpin or put in a deft grubber kick. Unfortunately, Brodie Croft dropped the ball, but was fortunate enough to get some foot to that footy, and it ended up trickling in the in-goal area, and it was Tom Opacek, who was playing for Parramatta, versus Jake Turpin. And a lot of Brisbane Broncos fans still today think that they were robbed of this try, thinking that there was some downward pressure from Jake Turpin. I think there is, but I don't begrudge the bunker for saying no try. It's definitely a contentious call, and I'm just glad I wasn't in the bunker to make this decision. And the action for the last 15 minutes of this game was end to end. It was thrilling stuff, long range breaks, and the like. And just a special mention to Isaiah Papali'i. I remember watching this game live, and about 3/4 of the way through this contest, I said to myself, struck me bank, this Papali'i who's come over from the other side of the ditch, his fair dinkum had a fair go tonight, and he ended up making over 170 plus running meters in this game. So Isaiah Papali'i ended up being the Dally M second rower of the year, or one of them. And it was Junior Paulo who ended up smashing his way through to score the match-winning try in the final minute of play to ensure the victory for Parramatta Eels in what was a really entertaining game of rugby league. And I know that there was some first half errors, probably about a 10-minute period there where either side couldn't hold onto the ball, and I know that there are some Eels supporters out there that think they played their worst footy in that first half, and so it couldn't be higher, unfortunately, and it would be if it was a better quality first half, but for what we got in a round 1 game, I thought this was sensational. Number 15, round 9 from Bankwest Stadium, Eels versus Roosters. This is the other game that I was talking about that had a 13 plus points score line involved in it, but it flatters the Parramatta Eels a touch, because this was a highly competitive game of rugby league, and the game was decided with about 10 minutes to go, in my opinion, and that's probably why it's not higher on this list. But there was long range tries, there was some really good defence. There was also some serious drama that involved Dylan Brown and Drew Hutchison right on halftime, where poor Hutchison, mate, he had a couple of weeks out due to a lacerated kidney, whereas Dylan Brown dug the knees in, or was responsible for that injury by digging the knees in to the back of Drew Hutchison. And it set up a game that didn't live up to the billing in their rematch earlier this season in Mackay. But the game that we got here in round 9 was very memorable, and I recommend you all check it out. Number 14, the elimination final. Parramatta Eels versus Newcastle Knights from Brown Park in Rockhampton. Yeah, Rockhampton got a couple of good games this year, in my opinion, and this game was the best of the lot. Parramatta Eels versus Newcastle Knights, elimination final on Sunday afternoon footy. Newcastle Knights got out to a lead inside the first 60 seconds of the contest, and it was just to and fro. It was back and forth between these two sides. Mitchell Moses had probably, arguably, his best game of the year, and the only reason why it's not more higher is because of the controversial decision with only a few minutes to go. Looking back at it now, it does look like that Clint Gutherson knocked the ball on, but look, it is what it is, and I think this is definitely a game that can be re-watched. There is definitely rewatchability to this game, so I think this deserves a spot on the list of the 21 best matches for season 2021. Number 13, round 5, West Tigers versus North Queensland Cowboys at Leichhardt Oval. There was so much going against the Cowboys in this contest. It was a venue that they had not won at since the year 2000. The legend, Tommy Raudonikis, had lost his life just a few days prior to it. It was a sellout. North Queensland got flogged by X amount of points the week previously. The Tigers had found a little bit of form as well. And the West Tigers were a deer in the headlights in the first half, and they were booed off at halftime, and rightfully so, because the scoreline was 28 points to 6 to the Cowboys. And credit goes to the Cowboys because their game plan to isolate David Norfolumu's side, especially with that long-range try to Hamiso Tabuai-Fidow in the first 3 minutes of play, it was exceptional. And then the script was flipped. They came out and finally found some gumption, the West Tigers, and they nearly ended up pipping us, and the final scoreline was 34 points to 30. So on a beautiful day at Leichhardt Oval, it was probably more memorable than what the quality of the contest actually was, but this had to be somewhere in the best matches of season 2021, and I've chosen it to be number 13. Number 12, round 14, Gold Coast versus Sydney, Cbus Super Stadium. If you want to see what the almost greatest comeback in NRL history looks like, you got to go check this one out. But it was Sam Walker that sunk the hearts of the Gold Coast Titans, and the Roosters ended up deserving the victory just because of how poor the Titans played in that first half. The final scoreline was 35 points to 34, and full credit goes to the Roosters in this one. This was very dramatic for that second half for sure. Number 11, round 19, Eels versus Raiders, Cbus Super Stadium. The Parramatta Eels and Canberra Raiders got stuck into one another from the very first play, and they did not let up the intensity for the entire 80 minutes. It was a smash mouth style of rugby league, and the halftime score for the first time in a long time was 0-0. And in that second half, it came to life a little bit more with 2 tries apiece, and those 2 tries for the Parramatta Eels were the 2 points of controversy for sure. In my opinion, the first of those tries shouldn't have been allowed, and the second try, where a lot of people think that Jordan Rapana used his knees to stop Marcus Sevo from scoring, I'm more of the side that thought that Jordan Rapana used his hip to bungle Marcus Sevo into touch and causing him to knock the ball on as well. This game ended up being 12 points to 10 to the Canberra Raiders. Unfortunately for them, it wasn't enough for them to sneak into the top 8 come September. This game had a lot, and if you like your defense more than your attack, check this game out. I highly recommend it. Ladies and gents, that's it for me for this video. I'm going to bring you guys the top 10 best matches of season 2021, in my opinion, next week. I've had a lot of fun doing it, getting my head stuck into the books, so to speak. If you disagree or if you agree, please let me know in the comments section. If you like this video, please like. And if you're new around here and you haven't subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button. That'd be much appreciated. And hope you all have a very nice weekend. Take care of yourselves. I'll see you next time. Take care.